by the way, I realised that we have never spoken about why the podcast is called Osmosis. So I think we should start
That's a
with
good
that.
realisation. Huh.
There he is. You're
Sorry, yeah, I
looking
realised you
very
didn't actually
handsome
see me.
today. You're looking very handsome
Yeah, I could
today.
see me.
You've got no beard at all. You've got baby face.
Chop it off.
Looking very
It's just,
handsome.
it takes too much attention to, maintain it.
See, I feel
Give a
like
little-
it takes too much
Little
attention.
trim.
See, this is why you should do what I do. Just don't maintain it. Just be a mess.
Well, I don't maintain it. That's exactly what I do.
That
I ignore it.
requires more maintenance, because now you're going to get home and you'll feel like, oh,
No, I won't bother. That's fine.
all
It's
right.
just like, once a season, shave it off.
Yeah, I get that.
And then it'll be back. Anyway, Osmosis.
Osmosis, indeed. So,
I can't remember who I was talking to the other day, and they asked why. So, from my perspective, well, definition of osmosis is the diffusion of fluid, often water, from a high concentration area of fluid to a low concentration area of fluid. So, how this typically manifests is like in a leaf. There's membranes, so you could think like different rooms.
So,
and there's a dividing partition between the room.
At GCSE, we tend to talk about water potential other than concentration, because normally when we talk about concentration, we talk about salt concentration, like concentration of dissolved substances. So it can get very confusing when you then say water concentration, because obviously it goes in the opposite direction to a salt concentration. So water potential is just number of water particles, but you're right, it is concentration effectively of water particles.
Nice. Yeah.
But the way I remember it is water moves towards the salt, which is a good way to think.
That's
about
not how I remember it.
That's the easiest way. At GCSE, there'll be like a question in the exam. I put the potato in the very salty solution. What happens to the potato? Well, the water will move out of the potato because of the salt, right? Depends on the solution. That's how I remember it. What was I going to say?
Nice.
So I remember saying to you, let's start a podcast. I initially wanted to call it Dr. Jamie Explains, which I think is a bit of a lame title. But basically,
it's very pretentious.
I just wanted you to teach me stuff. Because I admire your brain a lot, and I always have admired your brain. So Osmosis, it felt like a nice name, didn't it? Because you're effectively diffusing knowledge into my mind across the partially permeable membrane of Discord.
Perfect.
There you go.
Yeah,
so that's why we're
that.
Osmosis.
I like that. Yeah,
you can
sounds
find
good.
us on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify or wherever you get your normal podcasts.
We haven't introed. Who are you?
My name is Callum. Who are you?
I'm Jamie McMillan.
The doctor.
Doctor.
Yeah, I'm just Mister.
It's not a real doctor. I'm a temperature doctor.
I'm technically allowed to put BSc after my name, but I only got a 2-2, so I feel like a bit.
You
of a fraud.
don't have to put that on there, so it doesn't matter.
I feel like a bit
BSc
of a fraud
is a BSc.
if I write it, you know.
It's fine. It doesn't matter.
What are we talking about today,
So,
baby-faced Jamie?
in the theme of why did we call it Osmosis, what I had in mind for this podcast was take a crazy looking paper.
Yeah.
And can we understand what it means? And so up to now, we've had with pizza. Who doesn't love pizza?
Yep.
We've had spacecraft. That was a unique one. We've had Fong. So Fong, like, I'm familiar with. That's like previous research. I've got an idea of that. Then we had plutonium. I mean, plutonium. That's just fun. Radioactive stuff.
And
Not
today.
too dissimilar. And today, all right. So, name of the paper. So we have here AdaIR, an adaptive all-in-one image restoration via frequency mining and modulation. That's inconspicuous. I don't know. That doesn't sound like a crazy title. It just says I'm going to restore images. And so this is by Yuning Tsue, maybe, perhaps, butchered, perhaps, from the Technical University of Munich, et al. This is, I feel like this is deep, man. This is really far from my expertise.
It's
But
very far from my
idea of
It's very far from mine as well, and it's am I right? So the date this was released, recent.
Recent. 1 week ago.
Yeah, recent. So very
Recent.
recent. So this is
Cutting
edge
edge.
stuff. And so it's about it's effective. It's like machine learning, neural. Is it what they call it? Not neural pathway, neural network. That's the word. Neural networks, artificial intelligence, machine learning, that sort of thing.
All the keywords.
I use artificial intelligence a lot, to be fair, but like to create documents and things, you know.
Hmm.
This is a whole new kettle of fish for me. I
But it's
don't
the
know.
same kettle of fish. Kind of.
Yeah. How? I mean, do you use AI in your day to day? Do you
Day
use
to day, not
much?
frequently. Hang on. It depends. Because currently we're using AI right now on this call to blur. That's AI.
Yeah, I suppose you are
So, yeah,
correct.
kind of. Kind of.
There you go.
But like actively for like AI things. Not actively.
I subscribe to
Hmm.
a wonderful website which is like teacher resources, but it uses AI. So it like and it basically I can put in like a topic and a learning objective, and it will give me ideas or questions or prompts or
Genius.
it's hugely time saving, and 9 times out of 10 they're very good. So I like to do a thing called a slop, which stands for shed loads of practice. So like at the end of a topic, I give the kids a slop, which is essentially a big essay of like direct instruction, just facts basically, and then questions that they can pull the answers from the text, and then like application questions and further research questions and explanation questions and things like that. Very, very, very useful for
Nice.
that. It saves me hours, AI.
I can
Hours.
imagine.
Yeah, it is great. It is great.
Nice. So this is a paper I pulled from the archive.
Hmm.
I thought I might go on a wee tangent here on like the peer review process and what it means. So papers we've done, not all the papers, but typical. So like the scientific process. If someone says, "Oh, someone wrote a paper about a thing," what
Hmm.
they probably mean is there's a paper in a journal, which is just like a magazine, but it's not in a magazine anymore. That has gone through a peer review process. So by comparison, the paper that we're reviewing today is from the archive, and that is a preprint article. So this has not been peer reviewed, but it's expected to be of an equivalent quality. So just the quickest tangents on what the peer review process typically looks like. So I do some research, I write a paper,
Hmm.
and then I want to send that to a journal and get it published. So then I don't know, it's out there.
Other people
When I've
can
done,
critique it, right? And other people
yeah,
can make sure you're not chatting rubbish.
exactly. But when I've in for the papers that I've done, when I've done the work, I kind of that's me done. I'm like, that's I want to share those results as quickly as I can.
Yeah,
And the peer review process can take an age.
could take a
Like
long time.
sometimes it's quick, sometimes it can take an age. So a common practice would be my preprint article. I'm just going to share it just online. I could just host it wherever. So this archive is a common just dumping ground of what are you up to? Tell
Nice.
me what you got. And often, so when I was submitting to a journal, I'd submit it to the archive as well. So there's the preprint article, so you can view that. It's free, and then the paper also goes through a peer review process. And
And that
some
costs
of my
money then, doesn't it? It can be monetized, right?
the monetization model is odd. Either you pay for it, and then the readers don't have to pay for it, or you don't pay for it, and then your readers pay for it. And of course, most people go for the I don't pay for it, the readers pay for it. But then readers then have to. It then becomes difficult to access
Yeah, because
research. So
I suppose money is
money
finite.
needs to happen somewhere.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I don't know of any people who are in professional situations like you are who have an infinite amount of money.
Nope.
So I imagine that it can be quite challenging sometimes to accrue funds for things like that.
I mean, you've already paid to do all of the work.
Yeah,
You want to pay even more?
yeah,
Just Put it somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I find the archive awesome. If you check out my publications on the archive, I think there's 4 on there at the moment. 1 includes my thesis. Only 2 are published, but you can like them follow the links back to the publication if you want to see like the change between the 2. But like from a content perspective, stuff in preprint doesn't really change to a published article. So there's some validity in it, but there's also grain of salt stuff. So yeah. Peer review process.
So if I don't get any of this, we can just say, obviously, it needed to be peer reviewed. It didn't read very well.
Or this could be considered as part of the peer review process.
True, except for the fact that we haven't got a clue what we're talking about. So are we really the peers to be reviewing it?
We're not.
And to be honest, normally when I'm sitting in a room with you and I say we, it's like I really mean me. But like today, I actually mean we. I don't think you're an expert either, which makes me very happy. I don't feel so out of my comfort zone, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's I'm excited to have a little look through. Adaptive all-in-one image restoration via frequency mining and modulation.
Sounds great.
Let's kick off.
So what do we have then? So broadly, this paper is talking about I want to restore a rubbish-looking image to a good image.
Yeah. So they talk about noise. So what does noise mean, Jamie?
What does noise mean?
A noisy image, that doesn't make sense. An image can't be noisy. Images are silent. Help me understand that. Sarcasm.
Oh. I'm prepped for like give me the TLDRs for things, but I didn't prep one for noise. Noise is so often noise is it's a bit of a catch-all term for things where there's not enough signal or there's just rubbish in your signal or observation. And so where this can often pop up is if you are taking a picture outside in daylight with your camera, it just looks crystal clear and looks perfect. And then you go inside, it's nighttime, you might have lights on, but you take a picture and then it just looks a bit grainy. And if you zoom in, rather than seeing like each pixel being nice and clear, well, I wouldn't say. Yes, you could say fuzzy, but fuzzy might be more of a blur, which is another effect. So, but it looks. What it looks like is if I zoomed into a small region, the pixel colors would be changing quite quickly, which doesn't make sense. Basically, they just change across the image, kind of randomly. It's just like random. It looks randomly crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Randomly crap. That was beautiful. So noise is random crap. Blur is fuzz.
Yep.
Haze is
I don't really know how to define haze.
I would define that as almost like a color filter. That's how I imagine haze. Like it's like a color filter.
Yes, and I guess it would manifest itself in a real world situation if you're taking a picture of a city and it's a bit foggy.
Yeah.
It's kind of haze.
Yeah,
There's attenuation or like reduction of signal through the atmosphere you're observing.
Yeah.
To the target you want to look at.
And then rain. Can you tell me what rain is?
No, I've never heard of. I was reading.
You're in England, mate. You should know.
What is it? I can't remember if it's from the book or from the film, but in June they talk about rain like what?
Yeah, I'm reading.
What? It just falls from the sky?
I'm actually reading the book at the moment, and there's a bit where he's talking about like how they don't have a word for swimming, which is really sad. And
there's another one like drowning.
Yep.
You drowning?
Yeah. What book are you on? You on the first one?
No, I finished the first trilogy a couple of.
So what you've read June? What's the second one? It's Messiah, isn't it?
Mhm.
And then the third one is called? I haven't got there yet.
Children of.
Ah. I'm still on the first book. It's very good. I've only got like 3 hours left in my audiobook. I'm probably going to finish it after this podcast, to be honest. I've been a bit addicted. It's really fun.
It's really good. Did you watch the first film again?
I've watched the first film.
Going to see. Okay, great.
It makes so much more sense now.
Yes, I know. So you went to the cinema, you watched Dune 2, you had no priori knowledge of the franchise.
I turned.
How did you find that?
I turned to you. Literally not even 10 seconds after the lights turned back on in the cinema, and I went, probably should have watched the first film, and just burst out laughing because I did not have the foggiest clue what was going on. I did not have a clue. It was visually beautiful. To me, it was just
delightful.
It was a film that I think a lot of boys, Paul is supposed to be 15 in the movie. A lot of boys can probably understand. It's just a movie about a guy who can't stop thinking about Zendaya, which, fair enough. That's what it was to me the first time I watched Dune.
That tracks back to the first film as well, actually.
It does. It's actually, I think it's worse in the first film because he's like dreaming about her before he's even seen her.
You don't even know her.
No.
Yep.
But no,
nice.
it was.
You enjoyed the first film.
It
and
was
now
very good. It was
good,
very good. I have enjoyed it a lot. What I really am enjoying about Dune is that it's a sci-fi book that feels like a fantasy, and I really like that because it's like a future where the human race have chosen not to go down the AI route. Do you know?
I think they did, and then they were like, "Oh, I don't like this."
Exactly. They learnt from their mistakes, and there's like weaponized religion in the Bene Gesserit church or whatever you want to call it. I just think it's really good. I'm enjoying it a lot.
Yep, nice, good. Why did we get there? Water. What is rain?
Rain. It's a nice tangent. I've actually been really, really wanting to talk to you about Dune, so I'm glad that we have got that out of our systems briefly.
So we've got these 5 effects that degrade an image. So we've got low light. So if you're taking a picture in the dark,
hello, Josie.
Haze. Oh, hello. Haze. So if you're looking through an atmosphere, like a cloudy day or a foggy day.
Yep.
Rain. Blur if your camera's wiggling about a bunch, and then noise, just random. So there are your 5 degradation effects that this model is looking to restore.
Nice.
And like reading, how far? I can't remember how far I got through the paper, but I was thinking, why? Which is always a good question to ask.
So
why? Who cares about this?
So I watched some YouTube videos around the subject, and some of the YouTube videos I was watching was blokes working in like microscopy, so viewing things like cells under a microscope, 3D modeling mitosis and things like that. And he wasn't really talking about so much as the why. He was more talking about the how. But my kind of understanding was, especially in those very precise and accurate spaces of like looking at very small things, I imagine if there is a little bit of noise, that could cause quite a lot of trouble. And then I think back to my days when I used to run I used to do a lot of gas spectrometry out of university. And we, that would need to be regularly calibrated, otherwise the noise in the signal would just be too much to bear, basically, and we wouldn't be able to get any meaningful readings from it. So my thoughts on the why is because a little could become a lot, I guess, if you was to zoom in.
Yeah, that's probably that's reasonable. And so the paper does highlight like a couple of fields that it's used in. So one of those is medical imaging. So that tracks. So a contrast here with, I feel like I'm from a cult, but my beliefs of metrology. So my background is in measurement science, and where you're describing the calibration of your gas spectrometer, I want to have complete confidence that the numbers coming from that are legit.
Are true, yeah.
And in my gut, like these image restoration techniques, not just image restoration, but just machine learning techniques in general, they're just fiddling the numbers. They make a pretty picture, but they're changing things, and that gives me heebie-jeebies.
But then I suppose machines will be smarter than people in a few years, if not already. Maybe they know what's there. Maybe their educated guess is better than a better photograph.
Yes, So it's good that they're smart, but what if they change the number now that it doesn't mean anything, and now I have no traceability? Then we're getting into the field of too much. But it gives me
read
but
on the subject of books. You should read a book. What's it titled? Let me. I can't think who writes it. I've probably told you about it before. It's called Scary Smart by a dude called Mo Gawdat. Who is I think he was a Google X researcher, so like the AI
you did
strand
mention
of
that
Google.
guy, yeah.
You must read that book. It makes me terrified.
I'm sure they're keen on AI. Yeah, Mo Gawdat.
Oh yeah,
okay, nice.
Yeah, I recommend.
Anyway,
that one.
So despite that, I do recognise that it has uses. It has applications in particular fields. So in this instance where we're thinking about like medical imaging, yes, you really care about the truth of that image. Like, if it says there's a tumour, I want to know that there is a tumour.
And I want to know where it is. I don't want it to flag up falsely somewhere else.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't want to misdiagnose someone having something that they don't. So there's an importance there on truth. But where it does become useful is if you have... Yeah, I don't know.
I tell you when it becomes useful. when you book an expensive wedding photographer and it rains. That's when it's useful. That's when most people will find use out of this. When the layman would find use out of this.
So there are uses. There are definitely uses. And so some of the other things we've got are, I think it was surveillance. Like there, the metrologist just keeps creeping back. But like in principle, you don't care what's really there. You just want the best quality. So like there, I see it. And remote sensing, which is the field I'm currently working in. Even there, the metrologist keeps coming back. I don't know. So I'm a skeptic, but you know, that's...
I mean, I
That's
don't know.
point.
I just think it's, I think this is the way that the world is going. You can be as skeptical as you want, but I don't think it's going to stop you using it.
Yep. Yeah. So there are uses. There are still uses for it. And so broadly speaking, so this paper is it's proposing a method to do this image restoration to account for these googly effects, and they are going to benchmark it against existing methods. And so there is some of the existing work in the field is the single task restoration models. So I am a model that is solely focused on de-raining images, and you tell it, here's a rainy image, get rid of the rain, and it will do a thing. And so there are these single task methods, but then there's also, similar to this, all-in-one methods that try and fix everything. So that's the general gist of the paper. Here's our thing. Here's how good it is to existing things.
So do we want to have a look at some of the images? And we can sort of talk about what we can see.
What you got?
Well, I'm just looking through. So I'm going. So Fig 2, I thought was quite interesting. So it looks.
Can we go to Fig 1 first?
We can go to
Fig 1's really good.
Fig 1 is really good. So Fig 1 is. I don't really understand the graph, but I can see the changes in the pictures. So you can explain the graph to me.
I don't want to explain the graph. I read it and it kind of makes sense, but it doesn't all make sense. So they make a good point in the caption. So, well, okay. If we're going to look at this, then an important aspect of this paper is the domain they're working in. Yeah.
Which is?
So, I don't know if it's all, but the author proposes that a lot of existing all-in-one, well, a lot of existing models, they consider the spatial domain. So they look at that picture, and from that, they build up their network of improvement.
Mm-hmm.
But what, and I think is a great idea, what the author is proposing here is we can look in that spatial domain. That's really sensible. But we can also look in the frequency domain. And
when we're talking about frequency here, we're talking about frequency of light, I suppose, like in the image.
Nope.
Help me understand.
Yeah, this is a weird thing. So, what did I have? Did I have a good method for describing this? I don't know. So we can look at an image and we can see properties on it. So we could imagine a blank image, so it's all black, and we scatter lots of white dots all over it randomly across that scene. So we've got
white noise.
Almost what looks like, yeah. So let's say we've got noise. So we could think of this as just like a CRT TV back in the day when it's looking at nothing. So there's just a scattering, random scattering of stuff on the screen.
I used to think that looked like birds. I used to think it looked like little birds flying towards me. That's what I pictured when I looked at white noise on a CRT.
I don't know if I ever ascribed it to anything.
I was just thinking it was birds.
And now it's not a thing anymore because we don't use...
I know, it's such a shame.
Don't use that.
I do think it's a shame that like kids these days will never know the little static click of touching the front of the telly screen.
It never goes away.
Dial-up.
Kids these days will never know X.
Do you know, when I was a kid, I thought I'd never say that. I really thought I'd never say that, but I say it every day.
The nostalgia trip it's a trip, man.
Yeah, it really is. I wonder what kids will be nostalgic about, like kids right now.
That's a good point.
It's going to be TikTok. Yeah. Oh, God, you remember how good TikToks used to be?
Yeah. That's an interesting... Yeah, I wonder what they would think about. So if we have this CRT image, or this like noisy image, if we look at... If we... It's tricky to do this without just saying, imagine a plot where X is this and Y is this. If we look at that image, the features are changing very rapidly across that image. So like it's going from white to black, lots of times in that image.
Yeah.
If instead we turned on the TV and there was just a big white circle in the middle of a black screen, what you would see is a very slow change, or not a very gradual change across that entire image. So rather than having lots of changes, a high frequency component,
right,
we've got a low frequency component because it's just changing once across that image, or it's just changing a little bit across that image. So that's kind of how you could visualize the frequency domain in an image.
Wow.
And I still have to think hard when... So this is a common thing in my day-to-day, but...
So it's not about the frequency of light, but it's like the frequency of change in the image that you're looking at.
The frequency of, like, structure or features within that image.
So if you Sorry, go on.
Well, I was just going to point to figure 1, so apologies audio listeners, but here we have
on YouTube, guys, if you want to see it, it will be up on YouTube if you want to have a look at the pictures as well, at Osmosiscast.
Or just find the paper, you can find the paper in the link.
Also true. Yeah, figure 1.
That holds. So if we're looking at figure 1, then we can see a picture of a plane, and it's like it's really zoomed in, and it's a bit grainy. And so what we can see here is that's a noisy image, and there's lots of high frequency components, or it's changing a lot across that image. And so when we look at the little chart on the right, what that's saying is, what's the length? The subgraph illustrates the mean values of the Fourier spectra. Oh my God. What I see from that is if we look at all of the different frequency features in that image, it doesn't change a lot. That purple line looks flat. Whereas if we look at some of the other lines, so we've got dehazing, it suggests that it peaks up at low frequencies. So that's saying that there's a really strong low frequency characteristic with this image. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on there. But I think that's an important concept behind this work, is thinking about these artifacts in the frequency domain, because you can say this image looks noisy from a spatial perspective. Like I look at the picture and you're like, ooh. But if you look at it in the frequency domain, you're like, well, that's just clearly lots of high frequency noise, and I can address that. I know I can understand.
I'm saying but I'm going to be honest, I don't really get it.
Fair enough.
I think that's a very good explanation, but I mean, so this is true.
Is it?
I watched the YouTube videos I watched. The one guy said, "If you don't get this, you're not dumb. It's just really high level stuff." And I was like, that makes me feel so much better. So I don't feel bad.
I suck at machine learning, artificial intelligence. I've been around it for
I've used, like I said,
10 years, more than 10 years. Still mystery garbage to me. Really awesome, but mystery garbage.
Yeah, gonna change the world, but yeah. Shall we look at Fig 2?
Well, yes, yeah. Let's do that. What is Fig 2 saying? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I see.
So my understand again. A lot of this paper really was a bit tricky for me. My understanding is that these images are showing that this particular AdaIR is able to differentiate very clearly between the different things, between the different types of, what's the word? I want to use the word noise, but noise is a specific one. You know what I mean?
Degradation artifacts. Let's go with that.
Artifacts. It can distinguish well between the different degradation artifacts present in an image.
Yeah, so it's benchmarking against PromptIR and AirNet, and what it's suggesting is, so these are the TSNE results. Okay, don't know what that means, but what it's indicating is these other models, there's a bit of overlap and it's a bit fuzzy whether or not it's trying to fix a noisy image or a rainy image. So yeah, that's what it's suggesting there. So I was interested in your thoughts on a neural network. So you picked up a couple of videos. Can you describe to me what is a neural network, Callum?
I can try as long as you correct me.
Yeah, all right.
So when I think about what a neural network is, I think of, no, I can't. I can't. I'm not confident enough. I don't think I know it. I think you need to tell me.
Yeah, all right. So I don't know. I think I know. And I was trying to boil down to just the simplest description of this. And so I would describe a neural network as a brain. And we can just leave it like that.
Now I'm annoyed because I was going to say that, but I didn't write it down on a piece of paper. I felt like that was a cop-out.
No, I mean, yeah, it's a cop-out. I'm going to say more words, but it's a brain.
My understanding is it's like a computer or a computer program that behaves in a similar way to how the brain behaves, in that it communicates between nodes, and yeah, that's about it.
So I guess thinking about what our brain does, like from my lay perspective, I don't brain things, is there's just lots of connections in your brain, nodes, and your brain's just really good at connecting those nodes.
Yeah, and when you learn new things or think new things, new connections are made.
Yeah. That's brain, and specifically for a neural network, they're often trained. So you train that brain for a specific task.
I actually almost just died because you made me laugh. I'm sorry. That's brain.
That's brain.
Oh my
they're really good at recognizing relationship between features or nodes, and the typical way that you would train a neural network is you'd just throw a shed load of data at it and you'd say, here, this is what a dog looks like, this is what a cat looks like, and then it's like, I know what dogs and cats look like.
Yeah, eventually it starts.
You could throw a picture of a bird and it's like, I don't think
it's not a
anything.
Dog. That's not a dog. I can tell you that for nothing.
Now, if you want to know the meaning of life, I've got nothing for you. But a dog.
Yet. I'm sure there's a neural network out there working on the meaning of life.
Well. So if you're on the topic of like AI taking over, we have really narrow focused AI, which this kind of is. Like, it's just, its task is image restoration. It's not. That's what it does.
Yeah.
And then you've got the really broad ones. So narrow ones, really good. They're going to take over the world. But the big ones, they're not that good.
I
Well, they're
think
not
we
as
should put that
not
on a
as crazy.
t-shirt. Broad
Tiny
AI,
big.
not that good. Jamie McMillan, 2024, and then we need to look at that t-shirt in 10 years.
Merch flag. Yep, let's do that.
Merch! If you're looking to buy Osmosis merch, it doesn't exist.
Is anybody asking for it?
Nope.
Nobody's asking
No
for
one's asking for it.
So that's what a neural network is, and that's the concept of this model that is being built by the authors. And the two like chunky, beefy parts of this model is, or the framework. There's a frequency mining module, and then there's a frequency modulation module. And so where we were discussing like the pull out frequency things, is it high frequency or is it low frequency? That comes out from the mining module, and then the modulation module, I don't really know what that does. It just talks between them and
changes something, I imagine.
Stuff.
Modulates. Just guessing.
Yeah.
Just a little guesstimation.
Yeah. So
interesting. We're experts. Moving swiftly on. I think we should skip Fig 3 because I took one look at this and swiped to the next page.
Figure 3 was intense.
I
also did, and then I thought, well, hang on, no, let's try and understand it. But then I also went to the next page.
Yep, I haven't got a clue what I'm seeing, to be honest with you.
Things that we see here, in principle, this is just showing a bunch of mathematical operations that they're applying to the images. And they've broken it down into a few little chunks. So here we can see like a really high level like flow of the image restoration framework. Taking a degraded image and restoring it. So that's broadly what we see here. And then there's a couple of like breakdown chunks of what the frequency modulation module is, what the frequency mining, frequency modulation.
Absolutely.
And then the CA. What was the CA? The cross attention. All right. And
the cross attention. Yep.
The LH and then the H. Okay. So yeah, there's a couple of big chunks here.
Yep.
And these are just showing tasks. And the things that we see here are convolutions. We see Fourier transforms. And some other bits and bobs. Yeah.
Some other bits and bobs.
If you read the text, like the overall pipeline method, the words make a lot of sense.
Yeah. I mean, sure, the word "the" makes lots of sense in isolation.
Let's excerpt here. The overall goal of our framework is to learn a unified model, M, that can recover a clean image, I prime, from a given degraded image, I, without any prior information of degradation type, D, present in the input image, I. That's just good language. That makes a lot of sense.
Isn't that... I read that. Where did you read that from?
That's
Is that
section 3, method, overall pipeline.
Oh, yeah. I'm here. Yeah,
it's both above and below.
Yeah.
Like, you take that, it kind of makes sense. So, good words.
Yeah, wonderful words.
I don't know. If we were to take it from like a peer review perspective, I got no beef with this part.
To be fair, if I'm coming at this from peer review, I think they've done a wonderful job. I mean, personally, I can't see any mistakes in their process. I can't see any.
Nope. Seems reasonable. Mm-hmm. Again, not an expert. It seems reasonable.
Oh yeah, no, it's a very important point, Mr. McMillan. Sorry, Doctor.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so some of the fun technical things here were like Fourier transform stuff and convolution. I don't want to talk about convolution.
Can you tell me what Fourier transform is? Because I don't know what that means.
But Fourier transform, I do want to talk about that because it's really cool.
I don't know what it is. Fourier, tell me about it.
All right. So when I think about Fourier, I instinctively think of like a signal from, I don't know, some measurement thing, and it's showing wiggly lines. And they're just arbitrarily wiggling. But what you can do is you can apply Fourier transform and have a look at the frequencies within that. And so that means nothing. But if we step back a little bit, further, if I was to take an arbitrary line, so I'm thinking like a function, like a y equals well, an fx line. So we can imagine this as just a line wiggling about. It isn't something that I can just model with like a typical mathematical operation, like a sine function or a exponential function. It's just wiggling over the place. But if I was to take a sine wave, so a sine wave is, if I think of just an oscillation, so maybe like a pendulum swinging will oscillate in a sinusoidal behavior. So it just oscillates between 2 points. I could think of a guitar string oscillating up and down when it's being plucked. And so if I take a sine wave, which is just an up-downy thing of the right shape, so the right amplitude and the right frequency, I can just replace that. I can superimpose that over my random function, and it won't look a lot like it at all, or it's unlikely to look a lot like it at all. And now if I take another sine wave with a slightly different shape, and I add it in and superimpose it, I can eventually add enough sine waves that I can approximate my random function. So I've got a wiggly line, and I can describe it with an assorted mush of sine waves.
Known lines.
An
assorted mush of known functions, yeah.
Yes, yeah. And so if I do that, what you can identify is, are there particular frequencies of these sine waves that I'm applying? And you can then, identify what are the most important frequencies. And that frequency analysis is common in a bunch of things. It's common in like acoustic engineering, electrical engineering.
I think because I've heard the word before, like Fourier transformations, and now you've explained it, I have heard and seen this done, specifically thinking about like sound engineering and acoustical engineering, that sort of thing. I've watched many YouTube videos about guitars. So and music.
So Fourier transform is that. So it's often used to take from one domain, so maybe like a spatial domain of my image, or like a one domain or a time domain, and you take a Fourier transform and it takes it into the frequency domain. So that's often how it's used in practice. And what we see here is a fast Fourier transform. That's just a software engineering hack to make things quicker and more efficient. Nice. In principle, it's the same methods. So you go from in this case, the spatial domain of the image. I can look at it and see features. To what's the frequency domain? So where we were talking earlier about pulling out high frequency noise artifacts to low frequency single blob in the middle. If I had those two images smushed together, so I had a really noisy image, and then I superimposed that blob in the middle, so it's still a noisy blob, I would see two clear peaks in the frequency domain. I would see the clear high frequency component from the noise and a clear low frequency component from the blob.
Okay.
And so that's kind of what's going on here. And that's,
I feel bad for our listeners in this one. It's
with my hand wiggling?
It's just very hard to. I don't feel that the hand wiggling doesn't affect the listeners, Jay. It's quite hard to visualize, but I'm just going to keep remembering what the guy in the YouTube video said. You're not dumb if you don't understand this. It's just high level stuff.
It's pretty high level stuff. So what are we doing here? They are so doing some Fourier transforms. So frequency mining, pull out all of the important frequencies. Frequency modulation, do some stuff, but pull out all of those frequencies. Pull out all of those frequencies, smush some things together, and from that I can identify what are the degradation artifacts in my image, and I know the correction I need to apply to each of them because I've identified it's a noise type thing or a rain type thing. And then it magically restores it. So
magically, it's not science; it's magic.
So that's broadly the method of the paper.
Yes.
And the framework.
Please tell me we're skipping the tables, the pages of. Okay, no, we've got pictures first. Fig 4. So the Fig
Yes.
4 has got degraded image, images being input, and then it's got the different what does it say? Comparisons between all-in-one methods. So the comparisons between
Yep.
all-in-one methods, so you can see some of the differences.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about this other than you can see. Oh, look, ours is the best.
I mean, yeah,
Pretty much.
it does what it says on the tin. They should rename it to Ronseal. Because I think AdaIR is pretty long. Just call it Ronseal Restoration. Does what it says.
If I'm typing it in the command line, Callum, AdaIR is a lot shorter than Ronseal, with a space in it as well.
Yeah, but imagine if you want to sell this. It's got
all right.
Ronseal's got a better ring, and everyone knows the tagline does what it says on a tin.
I did. Until you said it, I had forgotten it. But yeah.
To be fair, until it popped up in my head, I'd forgotten it. That's buried.
So yes, yeah. Figure 4 is visual comparisons between the AdaIR and the AirNet and PromptIR models. So yeah, they look different.
We can
they look like they look.
Audio listeners that they definitely look different, and AdaIR looks probably a bit different than the other ones.
Yeah, it does. So we did skip a table, and
intentionally. You're gonna make me scroll back up.
I mean, really, we can look at the colours here, Callum. So what we see here is
I'm scrolling up.
All right, table 1. So what we see here is AdaIR. Their numbers are in red. That's the best.
Right.
And all of the other numbers are in black or blue, which is not the best. So that's what we can see here.
Excellent. Moving swiftly.
Excellent. So
again,
what the
audio listeners, I can confirm that they were in red. Are we floundering yet?
Absolutely.
Is this the worst one yet? Should we stick to pizza?
Well,
I'm having a great time.
I'm enjoying myself. So, the method or the hypothesis is we can do a restoration method, and it's better than all the others. From an experimental perspective, how do you verify that? They benchmarked it. So that's all these tables are showing is just them benchmarking to other models. And so, if you want to benchmark something, you need to have a metric, and their metrics are peak signal to noise ratio and structural similarity indices. So if we look at these tables, we see a bunch of like number/number, and that's what we're seeing here. So we're just seeing what is a number that says how good we did.
Right.
Yeah. So
again,
they say
really good work for the peer review.
Coming at it from a peer review perspective, I look at it and I think, it kind of looks perfect. Their number is the best. They've looked at a bunch of different degradation artifacts. That's great. I got no grief with that.
Yep.
Without like the context of, well, obviously you chose those models to benchmark against because everyone knows they're rubbish. Like that.
That's such a cynical viewpoint, Jamie. Oh gosh. So after Fig 4, I'm skipping the table. You're insistent on going back, but I'm moving on, mate.
You're welcome.
We've got the same image as in Fig 4. So Fig 5 is the same but deraining results. And again, I can confirm to the audio listeners that AdaIR's looks like it doesn't have any rain in the
That's quite right. Yes.
Pictures. And then
rain
again,
disappears.
Fig 6, it's denoising. So what was our definition of noise, Jamie? Remind me.
Random crap.
Random crap. So you can see lots of random crap. I really do like the Nemo fish in this one. So there's a Nemo fish. And again,
random crap is gone.
Does what it says on the tin.
Wow. Yeah. It's denoised those images.
And then again, there's many more numbers. I think we can skip numbers. Let's talk conclusion, maybe.
Yeah, well, so what we're seeing here is just a breakdown of
it's
doing benchmarks against single task models and all-in-one models. I think the only one to point out was Table 5, where
Table 5.
They do make it clear to the reader when they're not the best. So if we look at table 5, we can have a look at the bottom row, which says this is our AdaIR model again in these 5 degradation artifacts. So dehazing, raining, noising, blurring, blow lights. And here's how we perform against all of these other models on average.
Interesting to me that they put the one where they're not the best on table 5 and not table 1, because they knew that no one was going to look at all of the tables.
That's just good report writing. I wouldn't say I've not done the same. Like,
very smart.
I'm gonna highlight the results that I think are the best, but I've got to be honest with you. There are some things that it's not perfect at.
But so hey, nothing's perfect, good. Right?
Yeah. So we see a collection of tables, and so the only point where they weren't the best was denoising. They got outed by Restormer, and I guess a point here is this Restormer is a single task model.
So you might expect it to do better at the one thing it's designed to do, right?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Well, actually, hang on. It's not the best. No, the AdaIR does the best. Apologies. Yeah, AdaIR does better, and that's an all-in-one. Anyway, it's interesting. It seems like these all-in-one frameworks are kind of the bananas.
The bananas?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're really good.
So the bananas is like a term of endearment, is it?
Yeah.
Is that a thing? I've never heard that before. I've never heard you say that.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is.
We should make it a thing. That's a segment. What's the bananas this week?
And then we follow up with some ablation studies, and yeah, I went over this. Why did they do this?
I have scrolled to conclusion.
I don't know why they did this.
I have scrolled.
Yeah. But I do appreciate their conclusion is a tidy little page.
It was probably the easiest thing to read in the whole paper.
Like I say, you want to read a paper, you read the abstract, you read the conclusion, then that's it.
Do you know what? That advice that you've given me has never been more important than in this one. Because that's how I tackled it, basically.
Yep. Yeah. So, conclusion here. So we're saying, the conclusions that the authors were stating is that AdaIR is the bomb. It's better than it obtains a 0.63 decibels peak signal to noise ratio improvement over the prompt IR. So it's better there. It was absolutely awesome at deraining, and still pretty good at the dehazing compared to previous models, and it makes bad images look pretty.
Their closing statement is beautiful. It just says the proposed network achieves state-of-the-art performance on a range of image restoration tasks. Succinct.
I mean, you can't fault that.
Succinct.
It's amazing.
Yep. There you go. Paper complete.
And that is AdaIR.
AdaIR, as described by two idiots who don't know anything about image restoration. But I had a blast because I have learned a little bit today. You explained Fourier conversions.
Fourier's good. Yeah. And what else do we pick up on?
The frequency stuff. That was an interest. I've never sort of had that explained to me before. It was It's a weird
thing to think about, but yes.
But yeah, so
I enjoyed myself. What were your takeaways, Callum?
So this. I don't plan what my takeaways are, by the way. They come to
neither
me,
do I.
They come to me while we're talking. And I think I've really enjoyed that we are looking at a very state-of-the-art and recent paper, because we've done some history lessons the last couple of episodes. And like I've said to you, my experience in sort of using AI and machine learning has very much been sort of text-based and prompt-based, So this was an interesting look into a world that I really don't know very much about. And if I'm going to give you a takeaway, it's that an awful lot of work goes into things that for a lot of people don't matter. That's my takeaway. This is a lot of work.
Yep. It is a lot of work.
It's going to make some.
And that's kind of the definition of all sciences.
I don't know. I feel like like
Both
medical
sides.
research, and I mean, I suppose this could be considered medical research. Maybe somewhere out there's someone that's going to be saved by noise reduction on their CT scan or something, and I hope that that's the
Maybe.
case.
That'd be nice.
I don't
I like
know,
that.
when I think about stuff like this, it feels so insignificant because it's so, even though it's obviously not specific, it's all in one, it's still very specific, you know?
It's got applications in remote sensing, medical stuff, surveillance.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
But
applications.
it's those applications are things that most people don't consider, right? I don't know. It's just it's yeah. That's my takeaway. It's a bit of I feel a bit mean saying it, to be honest. Imagine these guys get a little email. Oh, you never guess what? It's been mentioned in a podcast talk about it. They listen to it, and it's just me, some pleb from England, going, God, they really care about something that doesn't matter that much. What's your takeaways, Mr. Jamie?
Just from a technical perspective, I like I'm pretty sure I said this about the last paper. I like their experimental setup. They're good methodology. Yeah, ballsy statement. Ours is the best, but the evidence proposed looks decent.
Prove them wrong.
I can't. From my perspective, I can't prove them wrong. It looks great. Publish it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's easy peasy.
So, kudos
that was AdaIR,
to
adaptive all-in-one image restoration via frequency mining and modulation, as peer-reviewed by Dr. Jamie McMillan, PhD, right? And Mr. Callum Morris, BSc 22.
That's great. Thanks a lot, everybody, for listening. This has been great. Where can you find us?
You can find us wherever you find your podcasts. Specifically, I always think of Spotify as Osmosiscast and YouTube.com at Osmosiscast as well. And we look forward to hearing you. Make sure you do a subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know if you'd like to look at a paper. Drop us an email, whatever you like. Thank you very much for listening.
Take it easy.
Thank you. Bye.